Have you ever stopped to think about just the sheer scale of global transportation? Billions of tons of goods, millions of people moving.
It's immense, absolutely huge.
And then consider how much it can all change, like really fundamentally shift in just 1 week, sometimes without much warning.
Yeah, it's like this massive engine, and sometimes the fuel type just changes overnight.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're going to unpack the global transportation outlook, looking at the key stuff happening between July 27th and August 3rd, 2025.
Right.
Our goal here is really to cut through the noise, to figure out what's really driving the changes in how things and people move and what that means for, well, the bigger picture for you.
And we've drawn from quite a stack of sources, industry reports, news updates, some deeper strategic analyses.
So we can distill it down.
Precisely. Give you the important nuggets, the key insights, so you can be, genuinely informed without getting totally swamped by all the data points out there.
Consider this your essential briefing, basically. We'll be hitting the big shifts in trade policy, those ongoing geopolitical tensions.
Which are definitely persistent.
Yeah. And how things look across maritime, rail, road, aviation. They're all performing differently.
Very varied picture.
Plus, of course, the tech and sustainability side. That's accelerating like crazy.
It really is. And all of this, it just screams agility, doesn't it? Supply chain agility, digital tools, green investments. They're not optional anymore.
Totally agree. Okay, so let's jump right in. Where should we start? Maybe the shifting sands of global trade and geopolitics.
Sounds good. That's probably the biggest headline generator this week.
Okay, so top of the list has to be that new U.S.-EU trade framework, right? Announced just now.
Yeah, announced by President Trump on August 3rd, and it's quite something. Sets a 15% tariff ceiling on most European imports to the U.S. starting August 1st.
15% ceiling. And it's all-inclusive, they said, even cars.
That's the key phrase. Even things like automobiles, which, faced much higher rates before. So that's a significant change.
But hang on, there was that carve-out, too, the zero for zero thing for specific stuff.
Right, exactly. Strategic products. Aircraft and components, certain chemicals, pharmaceuticals, they get treated like they did before January. Basically zero tariffs or the old low rates.
Okay, so aircraft components. That sounds targeted. What's the thinking there?
Well, it looks like a pretty direct policy move to help the U.S. aerospace industry, specifically Boeing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Because
Boeing.
they've had their issues.
They really have. The investigations into that Air India crash, the Boeing 787, then the ongoing hurdles with the 737 MAX versions, the 7779.
Right, production limits, too.
Exactly. So this tariff exemption on parts, it's basically designed to ease some of that financial pressure on their supply chain, help them compete better globally.
Makes sense. And what did the EU commit to in return? It sounded like quite a lot, not just on trade.
Oh, it was substantial. Huge, actually. They've committed to buying around $750 billion worth of U.S. energy over 3 years.
$750 billion. Wow, what kind of energy?
LNG, oil, nuclear products, a big mix. Plus, they pledged an extra $600 billion in investment in the U.S. and a, quote, substantial purchase of military gear.
Okay, so energy, investment, military, and then trade liberalization.
Yeah. Eliminating some low duties on industrial goods, better market access for U.S. fishery products, some non-sensitive farm exports.
That energy piece, the $750 billion, that feels like a major strategic shift, doesn't it? Moving away from, say, Russia.
Absolutely. It signals a massive reorientation. And think about the shipping impact. More tankers crossing the Atlantic, big changes for global tanker markets. It's a geopolitical statement as much as an economic one.
Okay, so that's U.S.-EU. But the broader U.S. trade picture, still pretty uncertain, would you say? The line was, no U.S. trade deals with Mexico, China, or Canada as deadlines loom.
That's the backdrop, yeah. Uncertainty rules. There was that 90-day extension for a land trade deal with Mexico, which is something, I guess.
But then they also revoked that de minimis privilege for e-commerce imports. What does that actually mean for, people buying stuff online?
Right, so de minimis basically let small packages, low-value stuff, come into the U.S. duty-free up to a certain threshold. Think online orders from overseas.
Okay.
Revoking that means those packages, even small ones, could now face tariffs. It's a direct hit to online sellers, especially those shipping from places like China, and potentially higher prices for you, the consumer. It might shift buying patterns.
And we're seeing the impact already, right? CMA, CGM.
Yeah, the big ocean carrier. They reported falling profits in Q2, and they specifically blamed the trade disputes, particularly impacting U.S. imports from China.
And that U.S.-China tariff reprieve, the 90-day one, that just ended. Or is it about to?
Ends August 11th. So we're back to a wide range of tariffs, anywhere from 10% up to 70% on various goods. It's back in full effect.
So this whole protectionist environment, it just keeps businesses scrambling, doesn't it?
Constantly adapting supply chains, rerouting, dealing with less predictability, higher costs. It's baked into the system now, unfortunately. It feels like the new normal for global trade.
And it's not just trade policy creating headaches. These geopolitical flashpoints, they seem to be adding a permanent layer of cost and risk to shipping.
Systematically embedding it, yeah. Higher operating costs, longer transit times, insurance premiums going through the roof. It's a global risk premium.
Like where specifically?
Well, take the South China Sea. Ongoing disputes, military activity, ships are rerouting.
Okay.
Then the Strait of Hormuz. Always tense, but the risk levels are heightened. That affects almost 20% of the world's oil trade.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah, so you get oil price volatility, insurance costs just skyrocket. And the U.S. just slapped its biggest sanctions on Iran's shipping network since 2018, right in the middle of all that.
And elsewhere? Black Sea, Red Sea.
Still, major problems. Black Sea conflict restricts port access, messes up grain exports badly, forces European buyers onto more expensive overland routes.
Which hits food prices.
Exactly.
Right.
And the Red Sea, you've got the Houthi attacks in the Bab el-Mandab Strait. That means diversions around Africa, more security needed, higher fuel burn, longer delivery times. It's disruption across the board.
So things like satellite tracking, AIS,
Yeah.
they're absolutely critical now.
Indispensable, not just for seeing where ships are, but for planning these detours, managing the risks in real time. These aren't just isolated incidents anymore. They're adding up to this global risk premium, forcing companies to accept higher costs and unpredictability as just the baseline.
And that Black Sea grain issue you mentioned, it's not just a shipping problem, is that the knock-on effects are huge.
Oh, huge. Global food supply chains, commodity prices, real humanitarian and economic consequences far beyond the conflict zone itself. It shows how connected everything is.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's look at how the different sectors are actually performing. Starting with maritime and ocean freight, sounds like rates have taken quite a hit recently.
They really have. The containerized freight index, it fell to about 1,550 points on August 1st. That's down nearly 17% over the month.
17% in a month.
Yeah, and compared to last year, down over 53%. It's a big drop. Drewry's index, another key benchmark, also fell 5.7% to around $2,800 per 40-foot container as of July 3rd. That was the third week in a row it went down.
Why the sudden drop? Is it just demand evaporating?
A lot of it seems linked to that temporary suspension of the higher U.S. tariffs we talked about. Less immediate pressure to ship goods before tariffs hit meant demand softened. It just shows how sensitive ocean freight is to these policy swings.
Okay, but here's the really interesting part, the sort of contradiction. Despite those falling rates and softer demand, ship utilization is actually super high.
Exactly. It's counterintuitive, right? Commercially idle capacity ships just sitting around dropped to just 0.4% in mid-June. That's incredibly low.
0.4%. So basically every available ship is working. How does that square with falling rates?
It suggests the carriers are being incredibly disciplined. They're actively managing the supply side.
Like parking ships?
More like strategically canceling sailings, what they call blank sailings. They're pulling capacity out of the market, even though demand is weak, specifically to stop rates from collapsing even further.
Ah, okay. So they're trying to put a floor under the prices.
Precisely. It's deliberate capacity management, a direct response to things like that tariff suspension cooling off demand. They want to maintain some level of rate stability.
Shows how quickly they react to policy changes. And speaking of carriers, you mentioned the CGM's profits were down. UPS too.
Yeah, both reported falling profits, citing the trade disputes and tariff challenges as major factors. It's hitting their bottom lines.
And there were some operational issues too. Containers overboard.
Yeah, about 50 containers fell off the Everlunar, apparently while it was waiting for a berth. And an insurance group warned about more hold fires and cargo damage on both carriers. So the operational risks are still very much there.
Okay, let's move over to rail. Big news there was that huge merger, right?
Massive news. Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern striking an $85 billion deal.
$85 billion.
Yeah, it creates the first truly transcontinental railroad in the U.S., enterprise value over $250 billion.
Wow. And the idea is to make rail better for shippers by getting rid of interchanges.
That's the stated goal, yeah. Eliminate those handoff points between railroads, streamline the process, make rail more competitive with trucking, especially for long haul.
But I bet shippers have some concerns
Hmm.
about one company controlling that much track.
Oh, absolutely. Big concerns voiced already about potentially higher rates, service issues. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking one entity controlling 52,000 miles of track.
52,000 miles.
Yeah. So the Surface Transportation Board, the STB, they'll be scrutinizing this very closely, looking at competition impacts, service levels. It's far from a done deal in terms of smooth sailing.
Okay, so that's the big U.S. merger story. But globally, there's another really interesting rail theme emerging, isn't there? On the tech side.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is really cool. In Linz, Austria, OBB and Voestalpine successfully deployed the world's first hydrogen-produced rail.
Hydrogen-produced rail, you mean the actual steel track?
Exactly. Made using green hydrogen, net zero CO2 technology, even using recycled materials. It's not just a lab test, it's deployed. It's a huge signal about the push for decarbonization in every part of the rail system, not just the locomotives.
That is fascinating. And Alstom getting that Lyon Metro contract, too.
Right, 300 million to modernize the metro system there. So you see investment flowing into both heavy rail innovation and urban transit upgrades. It shows that environmental goals and tech advancements are really driving change globally in rail.
Okay, let's switch to road transport. Sounds like a bit of a murky picture there.
Yeah. Unclear market trajectory is a good way to put it. You've
Yeah.
got the geopolitical chaos we talked about, the stop-start tariffs, and just generally weak freight market conditions still hanging around.
Including an unseasonal drop in truckload demand. That's not normal for this time of year.
Not typically, no.
Why?
So it points to underlying softness. It's a tough environment for many trucking companies.
But again, it seems like there's a nuance here. It's not all bad news across the board. Kind of a split market.
That's exactly right. It's bifurcated.
Yeah.
So despite the overall weakness, you see Landstar System, a big spot market broker, reporting trucking revenue growth for the first time in almost 3 years.
Really?
And LTL carriers, the less than truckload guys, they're actually expanding their U.S. networks.
Oh, what does that tell us? Are the big players just grabbing more share?
Could be consolidation, yeah. Or maybe they're just better at optimizing, using tech platforms like TruckStop's private loads to find freight more efficiently. Or maybe they're shifting assets around smartly in response to the tariffs, like Hunt Transport and Knight-Swift seem to be doing. It suggests the well-managed, larger, or tech-savvy carriers are finding ways to navigate the storm, resilience, and adaptation again.
And how's policy playing out for trucking right now? Good and bad.
Bit of a mixed bag. Carriers definitely welcomed some deregulation pushes from the FMCSA, the Safety Administration, and Congress approved some tax breaks for trucking, which helps. But potential immigration crackdowns under Trump could really crunch trucking capacity, as one report put it. If the driver pool shrinks, that puts pressure on everyone. So you see how different policies, even from different parts of government, pull the sector in different directions. Very volatile.
And labor issues. Security problems. Still seeing those.
Definitely. The Teamsters called UPS's driver buyout offer paltry. UPS is also temporarily closing a parcel center in New Orleans. FedEx is cutting almost 500 jobs. So labor relations and cost cutting are definitely live issues.
And security. Cargo theft.
Yeah, that's on the rise too. Getting more frequent, more sophisticated. There was a big one in Reno, Nevada. A Seva logistics truck carrying millions in electronics got hit. It's a growing operational risk.
Okay, let's turn to the skies. Aviation. Boeing seems to be really going through it right now.
They really are just facing a whole raft of challenges. Ongoing investigations into that Air India AI 171 crash, the 787.
Right.
Plus, the regulatory hurdles are still there for the smallest and largest versions of the 737 MAX and for the big 777-9.
And the FAA production limit on the MAX is still capped after the Alaska Airlines door plug incident.
Still capped at 38 planes per month. And remember, the NTSB, the safety board, gave Boeing a pretty stern critique in June about their safety culture, saying measures were inadequate. So it's pressure from multiple angles.
So with Boeing struggling like this, how does that ripple through the wider aviation market, especially since air travel demand is strong?
It creates a major supply bottleneck. Airlines want planes, especially with passenger capacity globally up 10% from pre-pandemic levels.
10% higher than before COVID. Wow.
Yeah, demand is robust. So Boeing's issues basically push airlines towards Airbus, their main competitor. Airbus actually posted strong first-half results.
Makes sense.
And it also forces airlines to get creative with how they get planes. You see more demand for alternative fleet strategies.
Like leasing.
Exactly. Like United Airlines selling 10 of their Boeing 737-9s to Dubai Aerospace Enterprise, DAE, and then leasing them straight back. A purchase and leaseback deal. It's a way to manage their fleet needs when new deliveries are constrained. One company's problems really do reshape the whole industry dynamic.
But despite Boeing's woes, the overall airline industry sounds pretty healthy. Growth and expansion.
It really is, yeah. That 10% capacity growth is significant. Airlines like Frontier, Air Arabia, British Airways, they're all adding new routes, expanding services.
And airports are investing too.
Yeah.
Heathrow's third runway plan.
Yep. Heathrow submitted its 4.8 billion town plan. They're calling it shovel ready, aiming for 30 new daily routes. Big infrastructure push.
And the FAA is trying to help ease congestion, extending slot waivers in New York, hiring controllers.
Right. Extending those waivers gives airlines more flexibility at busy airports like JFK and LaGuardia, and they're trying hard to boost the air traffic controller workforce, aiming to hire 2,000 this year. Needed capacity on the ground and in the control towers.
But there are still operational hiccups, right? ATC issues.
Always seem to be. There was a UK ATC system failure on July 31st, caused hundreds of delays, and the Jacksonville Center in the US had a telecommunications issue. It just highlights how critical and sometimes fragile that infrastructure is.
And regulatory stuff, too. The U.S. restricting Mexican airlines.
Yeah, the US DOT is limiting some Mexican carriers, alleging they violated open skies principles.
Open skies. Remind me what that is.
Basically, international agreements that allow airlines from signatory countries to fly more freely into each other's territories, promoting competition. If one side feels the other isn't playing fair, they can impose restrictions. It impacts routes, flight availability for travelers.
Okay. But on a positive note, for travelers, no more taking shoes off at U.S. airports.
That's the plan. DHS ended the mandatory shoes-off policy. Should hopefully speed things up a bit at security checkpoints.
Wow.
Small win.
Okay, last sector piece. Global fuel prices. Always a roller coaster, right? What's the latest?
Well, it's complex, as always. In the UAE, August prices are expected to be stable or maybe slightly up. But that's after a really steep jump in July. It was their second highest month this year.
So, short-term spikes despite longer-term forecasts. I thought the World Bank predicted prices would drop.
They did back in April. They projected global commodity prices, including oil, would hit their lowest levels of the 2020s this year. But reality intervened. Meaning the energy price index actually rose almost 10% in June, mostly driven by crude oil jumping over 11%. So short-term market stuff, geopolitical factors, supply management, they can easily override those longer-term economic models.
So transport companies just have to stay super agile on fuel costs.
Absolutely. You can't rely on long-term forecasts when the day-to-day is so volatile. Hedging, fuel efficiency, it's all critical.
What about bunker fuel for ships? Any relief there?
A little bit, yeah. Early July saw some easing. The G20 VLSFO index dropped to around $553 per metric ton. Brent crude was down near $67, $68 a barrel at the end of June.
And why the easing there?
Mostly attributed to slightly cooler tensions in the Middle East around that time, plus OPEC, plus increasing output a bit, and maybe global demand just tempering slightly. Shows how quickly geopolitical signals and supply decisions by producers hit shipping costs.
Okay, let's pivot now to the really transformative stuff. Technology and innovation. AI and automation seem to be, well, everywhere now.
Pervasive is the word. It's not theoretical anymore. It's being deployed widely across the sector. We're talking predictive maintenance for vehicles and infrastructure.
Okay.
Dynamic traffic optimization, automatically tracking vehicles and pedestrians, enforcing traffic rules, predicting flow patterns. It's becoming standard.
Even improving how operators interact with the systems.
Yeah. Natural language processing, NLP, is making it easier for humans to work with these complex traffic management systems, more intuitive.
Can you give some, real-world examples, stuff that's actually running now?
Sure. There's Transport Live's Traffic Live platform. It's AI-powered logistics management, uses real-time data, plans optimal routes, even updates resource allocation every 30 minutes. Super dynamic.
30 minutes, wow.
Or Docker Vision's DOCR. That uses AI-based optical character recognition, basically reading container numbers, rail wagons, license plates, automatically imports, speeds things up massively.
And it's just general supply chain management.
Absolutely central now. AI for smarter forecasting, real-time tracking of shipments, automated alerts if something goes wrong. The big shift here is that AI enables supply chains to become predictive, not just reactive. That's a huge competitive advantage, seeing problems before they happen.
Okay, and alongside AI, The push for electric and autonomous mobility is huge, too. Decarbonization is driving a lot of this.
Massive commitment across modes. For EVs, new registrations are forecast to hit 18.1 million globally in 2025.
18 million. That's a lot of EVs.
It is. And the tech is improving fast. Battery chemistry innovations, solid state, lithium iron phosphate, LFP. They're boosting range, safety, performance, and bringing costs down.
I read something about charging roads. Is that real?
Dynamic wireless charging. Yeah, trials are happening, embedding charging systems into roads so EVs can charge while driving.
Seriously, while moving.
Yep. If that scales up, it could be revolutionary for long-distance trucking or buses. Imagine much less downtime for charging, less range anxiety, game-changer potential.
That's wild. And this green push isn't just EVs, right? We mentioned hydrogen rail.
Exactly. It's multimodal. The UK government put 30 million into green maritime fuels and decarbonization tech. NYK Line, the shipping company, is consistently using bio-LNG fuel on its car carriers. And yeah, that hydrogen-produced rail in Austria. It all points to a fundamental energy transition across transport.
And what about autonomous vehicles?
Yeah.
Still progressing.
Rapidly, especially in commercial uses. The market for semi-autonomous trucks and vehicles is projected at nearly $237 billion by 2025. Fully autonomous adds another $191 billion on top of that.
So the investment is definitely there. What kind of progress are we seeing?
Companies like Gatik just unveiled Arena. It's a super advanced simulation platform, crucial for training and testing the AI for autonomous trucks safely.
Simulation is key.
Absolutely. And you see collaborations like Bendix and AIVA working on 4D LiDAR. That's advanced sensor tech to make trucks safer, better perception systems. The main drivers here aren't just cutting driver costs. It's really about safety and operational efficiency, optimizing routes, reducing human error, making logistics more reliable.
Okay, let's tie some of this together with sustainability and resilience initiatives. Building for the long haul, decarbonization seems very policy-driven.
Hugely policy-driven. Governments are setting hard targets, timelines aligned with the Paris Agreement for zero-emission vehicle sales, especially trucks, buses, vans.
With interim goals.
Yeah, often with targets for 2030, 2035. That policy push is the main catalyst, forcing the shift from fossil fuels. And it's working. EV car sales alone projected at 25% of the global market, 20 million vehicles in 2025.
What are some specific policy examples driving this?
Well, the EU is bringing in stricter emission standards for road transport, things like mandatory charges for air pollution from heavy trucks, potentially allowing cities to implement congestion charges more easily.
Okay.
We mentioned the UK's 30 million for green maritime. And the UNDP, the UN Development Program, is actively helping countries like Uruguay, Ghana, Lebanon, even small island developing states to electrify their vehicle fleets and create national sustainable transport plans.
What strikes me is that sustainability now seems much broader than just swapping engines. It's about, redesigning cities.
That's a really crucial point, yeah. It's becoming much more holistic. It's not just about electric cars. It's about fundamentally rethinking urban spaces to prioritize walking, cycling, public transit.
Like Jakarta.
Exactly. Jakarta's implementing traffic management strategies and building protected bike lanes. It reflects this deeper understanding that truly sustainable transport might mean reducing the need for private car trips altogether, creating healthier, more efficient cities.
Okay, so that's the green push. But on the other side, there's this immense pressure on supply chains. Resilience is the big buzzword.
Complexity and disruption are the other buzzwords defining global trade in 2025. It's just this constant barrage, geopolitical tensions, climate change impacts like natural disasters, regulatory surprises, economic ups and downs.
So businesses have to rethink everything.
Fundamentally, they're reevaluating how their supply chains are designed, moving away from models that were purely about lowest cost towards prioritizing resilience, being able to withstand shocks.
So what does that look like in practice? What are the key strategies?
Effective risk management, obviously, more collaboration, public-private partnerships, international cooperation, and diversification, not relying on single source locations or routes, which, by the way, also helps with ESG compliance.
And technology plays a big role here, too. AI again.
Absolutely vital. Machine learning, AI, blockchain, they provide the visibility and efficiency needed. Real-time tracking, smart forecasting we talked about, automated alerts. These tools help manage the unpredictability, deal with things like labor shortages.
There's been a lot of talk about relocalization, bringing production back home. Is that the main solution for resilience?
It's part of the discussion, but there's a really important nuance. OECD modeling actually suggests that going all in on relocalization could seriously hurt global trade, maybe shrink it by over 18%,
Wow, 18%.
and cut global GDP by over 5%. And here's the kicker. It doesn't even consistently improve resilience across the board.
So reshoring isn't the silver bullet.
Doesn't look like it. The thinking seems to be shifting towards a more balanced approach. Diversification, yes, but heavily integrated with technology for visibility and flexibility. That's seen as more sustainable and effective than just trying to bring everything home. And this whole reevaluation, it's forced by that perfect storm of geopolitics, trade protectionism, and climate impacts.
Okay, let's try to synthesize all this. Looking at the outlook, the strategic implications, what does this interconnectedness really tell us?
Well, this past week just hammers it home, doesn't it? Trade disputes, tariff changes, boom, they hit carrier profits, they hit freight rates on sea and land immediately.
Right.
And at the same time, those geopolitical hotspots flare up, and suddenly you need costly rerouting, insurance spikes, and you absolutely need that advanced tracking tech just to keep operating. It's all linked.
And we touched on the America First angle in U.S. policy. That seems to be actively reshaping things too, maybe making the global picture more fragmented.
I think that's fair to say. You look at the U.S. DOT, Undersecretary Duffy, billions committed to the Ready Reserve Force, revitalizing U.S. shipyards, pushing the surface transportation reauthorization to get America building again.
But also canceling some big rail projects.
Exactly. Pulled funding for the D.C.-Baltimore maglev, called the California High-Speed Rail doomed, and pulled billions there too. The rationale is prioritizing projects deemed more viable or domestically focused.
And targeting Chinese cranes, pushing domestic production.
Right. Tax incentives for domestic manufacturing, scrutinizing foreign tech imports. It's a clear strategy to bolster domestic industry and secure supply chains from perceived foreign risks. But yes, it likely contributes to a more fragmented global transport landscape, prioritizing national interests.
So lots of fragmenting forces.
Yeah,
But is there anything pulling in the other direction? A unifying theme?
definitely. Despite all the fragmentation, there's this incredibly strong global push for sustainability and tech advancement. That seems universal.
AI, EVs, hydrogen rail.
Yeah, ambitious climate targets set by governments worldwide, that drive to decarbonize and digitize, it transcends a lot of the immediate geopolitical noise. It feels like a shared long-term imperative for the whole sector.
So putting it all together, what's the forward-looking assessment? What should we expect?
I think continued volatility is almost a given. Freight rates, operational costs, they'll keep bouncing around because of the trade policy uncertainty and the geopolitical risk aren't going away. But expect investment in green and smart tech to accelerate even faster. EV charging, hydrogen infrastructure, autonomous systems, AI integration, the mandates for decarbonization, and the business case for efficiency and safety are just too strong.
And how will businesses respond strategically? What's the priority?
Resilience, resilience, resilience. Through diversification, yes, but critically, through adopting those advanced technologies we talked about, real-time visibility, predictive capabilities, it's a fundamental shift away from just chasing the lowest costs.
And sector-specific things to watch.
Further rail consolidation in North America seems likely after that big merger announcement. And definitely keep an eye on Boeing. Whether they can truly overcome their current challenges will have huge implications for the whole Airbus-Boeing aviation duopoly.
Okay, so that's the landscape. For you listening, trying to navigate all this, what are the actionable takeaways? What should you focus on?
First, definitely cultivate agility and trade compliance. You just have to monitor tariffs, trade barriers constantly, be ready to shift sourcing or routes quickly.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
Second,
Enhance operational risk mitigation. That means really leaning into technology, advanced tracking, real-time data, predictive modeling. Use it to anticipate and buffer against those geopolitical, operational, even climate-related disruptions.
third point, green investments.
Prioritize them strategically. Investing in electric fleets, exploring hydrogen, looking at green maritime fuels. It's not just good PR anymore. It's about competitive advantage, long-term viability as the world decarbonizes. Get ahead of the curve.
Fourth, the people side. Talent gaps.
Huge issue. You need people with skills in modern supply chain management, data analytics, AI implementation, green tech. So invest in training your current workforce, partner with universities, make sure you have the right talent for this new era.
And finally,
foster robust collaboration. Public-private partnerships are essential for the big stuff, tackling systemic risks, modernizing infrastructure, creating sensible, harmonized regulations that actually support trade instead of hindering it. No one can solve these big challenges alone.
What a week, huh? It really underscores how dynamic this whole global transportation sector is. Trade policy shifts, geopolitical flare-ups, and this relentless wave of tech and sustainability.
Yeah,
It's all happening at once.
a truly complex web and incredibly interconnected.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. As these lines keep blurring between national interest, global trade flows, and these huge technological leaps, how is the very idea of movement going to be redefined in the next decade? And maybe more importantly, what role might you play in shaping that future?
Good question to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with more insights.